The Pisces new moon occurring on March 18th, 2026 at 9:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is asking us to find our calm in the chaos. I think this video is going to be a little bit shorter because I have been rambling on about Pisces energy for a while now because of the transition of Saturn and Neptune from Pisces into Aries has occurred recently. And so with the Pisces themes, we have been really hammering those down and understanding that Pisces is, of course, the last sign of the zodiac. In astrology, we look at the new year as the first day of Aries season because that takes us back to the beginning of the zodiacal wheel. And so this is a New Year's Eve new moon. So new moons always begin new cycles of the moon. It's a beginning, but it's occurring at the very last degrees of Pisces. At 28 degrees is where the sun and the moon will find each other for the new moon. And it is not it's not close enough to be an eclipse because the North Node in Pisces is at 8 degrees. That's a whole 20 degrees away. That's not close enough to be considered an eclipse. But we are still seeing the North Node Pisces being activated by Mercury, which is also right at 8 degrees. So exactly conjunct at the time of this new moon. And of course, we know that Mercury is also still going to be retrograde. It will be moving out of retrograde just 2 days after the new moon, which is the same day as the astrological new year, the first day of Aries season, the spring equinox, blah, 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 all the things. And so with this new moon occurring at 28 degrees of Pisces, with Mercury being exactly conjunct the North Node in Pisces, at 8 degrees, we see there's 2 8s there, so there's this infinity moment happening. It's also happening on the 18th of March, so we look at 3 different 8s there, and that is a beautiful, beautiful moment for us to realize that just because Pisces is the end of the zodiac, that doesn't mean it's the end for us. And if we have been having big endings coming through with these new cycles that are starting, we can also remember that that is not the end of us. There's always a beginning that comes with an end. And we are really being asked with this year, for the fire horse year, this is a year where we cannot afford to bring anything that is weighing us down into the new cycle. And I talked about this in a couple videos back, talking about lightening the load for the beginning of this new year, this 2026 year. And now we're really, like, we've had the 2026 New Year, we've had the Chinese New Year, and now we have the astrological New Year. We are fully stepping in to this new fire horse year, and there's no more, unless you have some other new year that you celebrate. There could very well be another New Year thing happening that I don't know about, but this is the last one that's like, okay, now we're ready. And just because we get to the first day of Aries season doesn't mean we're not going to still have Mars in Pisces. So like all the planets are going to move into Aries, and then in April we're actually going to have 8 planets in Aries. So April is when we really are going to have this fire energy really igniting. And in this Pisces time where we're still working with some Pisces energy, we do still have some Aries with Saturn and Neptune freshly there. And of course, Chiron is there as well. Venus is also there, so we do have a Pisces stellium, an Aries stellium already so far in this new moon, this Pisces new moon. And then we also have the Pisces stellium. So we have both of them kind of together, but very different energies, right? Water and fire. Pisces is mutable, Aries is cardinal, mutable meaning changeable, cardinal meaning initiatory. And so we are being asked to let the Pisces energy dissolve. Anything that is still with us, that has still not been dropped off, like any dead weight that has not been dropped off. And then we are feeling that fire, that urgency, that motivation, that want to take action, that need to protect something, perhaps ourselves, right? Our autonomy, or, things that we care about, with Venus being in Aries already. And so let's look at the transits and see exactly what this new moon is trying to say to us more specifically. So let's backtrack to Mercury in retrograde in Pisces at 8 degrees, exactly conjunct the North Node. At this moment of the new moon, we're being asked to really tune in and listen closely to where it is that we are going forward, right? North Node is about like moving forward, true north, our soul's journey and trajectory in this moment in time. And it's pushing us into our Pisces house and into the Pisces realms, which is a place of liminal space. And we are going to be having the North Node still in Pisces until June. So we are still going to be working with that energy. Even with the Aries stellium, even with 8 planets in Aries, we are still going to be working with that North Node Pisces. And I think the North Node Pisces is going to be softening that Aries energy for us to remember that there is a sense of urgency, there is a sense of wanting to take action, but we have to tune in and listen to our subtle inner knowings, our intuition, in order to really know like what the right action is to take. Otherwise, we could get carried away and we could act before we think, and we could miss the quiet whispers of the universe that are guiding us. Like, they're always there, available to us, as long as we can get quiet enough to listen and tune in. It's like a radio frequency that we can only hear when we are still and we are quiet and we are sitting. And I know that meditation is not everyone's favorite thing. It's definitely not something that is popular by any means. I think it's gaining traction. But I think it's important to also acknowledge that Pisces is not just meditation. Yes, that is a very beautiful flow state that we can find ourselves in, but Pisces is also about the flow state that we can find with anything that really lights up our soul. Something like dancing, or something like making art, or, even going as far as to say like psychedelic, engaging with psychedelics is a really beautiful way to tune into those more like inaccessible ways of thinking that we normally like, they feel like almost just out of reach for us, and it takes us to do a little bit of work in order to get to that point where we can actually hear things. So Mercury in Pisces, like I mentioned in the last video, is very uncomfortable there because Mercury is about the logical mind. Pisces is about chaos and about liminal space and about formlessness and about like dissolving all labels and all, it's the point of the soul's journey where it leaves everything behind that it accumulated in its human life. It now returns back to source, and it doesn't get to bring anything with it, right? Like, it does not get to take its name with it. It doesn't get to take its career or its relationship or its family or any of that with it. It is purely reverted back to its soul essence. And then, we don't really know what happens, but we can speculate that like this essence is then recycled and reincarnated, if you prefer to think of it like that. I'm not here to say that I know the answers either. I just have my own opinions like everyone else. And that's kind of like what we're experiencing on a collective level right now, is like Pisces represents this spiritual essence and this concept that is unnameable and formless, and like we as humans, we've tried our best to like put a name to it and to like define it and to like get all the answers about it, like what happens after we die, what religion is the truth, like which, you know what I mean? And there are many truths, and we're seeing that on a more mundane 3D perspective as well, because people have their own truths that are conflicting, and they are causing conflict, and they're causing chaos, and they're causing separation, right? And Pisces wants us to come back into unity. It wants us to come back to our source, where we all came from and we all return to. And instead, we're seeing the separation, and we're seeing the conflicting ideals, right? And that's where the Aries part comes in, right? Aries is about separation, and it is about a severing, right? Because Aries, if you think about when a baby is born, there's a cutting of the umbilical cord, and that is that Mars energy of cutting, of severing, of, it was really nice to be in the womb and be connected to mom, but now you're on your own and you're cut off. Like, obviously we're not cut off 100%. Hopefully we all had parents that loved us and cared for us when we were young and helpless. But there is still a severing that occurs, right? Even if you don't cut the umbilical cord. I know that's a thing now. But you still are this baby that's now outside of your mother's womb instead of inside, protected, right? And we learn in Aries that no one is coming to save us, and that we all have been preconditioned to be taken care of, right? Because of how society works, how human beings work, and we live with our parents for like a number of years, like a lot longer than a lot of animals do. Humans live with their parents and off of their parents longer than any other animal. But we also have to remember that we are two animals, and there is a very primal part of us that needs people. It needs other people. So like, yes, we're separate now. Yes, there's this Aries energy of like, I'm on my own, and I am identifying with being an individual. But we all can still acknowledge the fact that we need people to thrive. Like, we're very social animals, and that's why the next sign after Aries is Taurus, and that brings in the idea of partnership. It brings us into our first relationships. And so we're not talking about that right now, although we will be talking about it very soon, because in April we are going to have Uranus move out of Taurus, where it has been, and then move into Gemini. And so if we want to think about where we are metaphorically in the wheel of the year, we are in this point where we have taken our time in Pisces season to reconvene with Source, and we have, whether that's through sleep or through the astral realms or through meditation or through psychedelics or whatever it has been for us, we have taken that time to really commune with God, and whatever that even means to any of us, to reconnect with this higher power, or this, it doesn't even have to be a higher power, this like other realm, that 5D realm, if you will, outside of the 3D, moving higher into a realm of liminal space, like the in-between. And then we get to come back down to earth, and we could be feeling like super ungrounded right now, actually, because we do still have Uranus in Taurus, and we will have Uranus in Taurus until April 25th. And so when I tell you that that is the only Earth in the chart right now, and Uranus is there, we're not feeling super grounded. We are seeing that Uranus in Taurus at 28 degrees is making an exact sextile to this new moon, and that is the main aspect of this lunation. And what that could mean is that we are being forced by Uranus, like shaken awake almost, right? Like if we've been sleepy, if we've been checking out spiritually, bypassing, escaping, whatever we've been doing, it's like Uranus is here to shake us awake and to like bring us back to the 3D and to be like, listen, this is your life. Like this is a reflection of your self-worth and of your work, like how much work you've done or not done. And so it's time to get real, and it's time to get back to work possibly. And you know, maybe there's a point where we are realizing that we have done a lot of work, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge if we are feeling tired, or if we are feeling exhausted and we are feeling drained, because Pisces is the only water sign that has no protective qualities about it. It actually is, it's the sign of the fish, and the fish is a being that is in water, and it kind of like has to have the water to survive. Like it can't leave. It, you know, it doesn't have the option to just like leave the water. And Pisces being a fish, if you think about how like if you pour something toxic into the water, a fish is going to be subjected to that as well. And so like we're looking at our environment and how whatever we expose ourselves to like really does affect us, and so we can become more discerning, right? The opposite of Pisces is Virgo, and we need to be more discerning with Pisces to heal any unhealed stuff there. And we can be more discerning about what we consume, right? North Node is about the head of the dragon, that consumption. What are we consuming? Like what are we subjected to on a daily basis? What are we choosing to really use language around with the Mercury conjunct North Node? Like what kind of spells are being put on us by others and people in our environment, or spells that we are putting on ourselves, or telling ourselves any kind of stories that keep us stuck. Those are real realizations that we can be having right now around like just what kind of language we're using, what kind of words that maybe we keep using that are like feeling stuck or feeling like a trap, like they're keeping us trapped. For me, I want to just say, like, one time I took a really big dose of my psychedelic drug of choice, and I woke up the next day and I decided that I wasn't going to speak at all for at least the whole day, and like have a day of integration. I would love to go back and look at what the astrology was going on back then, but I remember the biggest insight that I got from that experience was the fact that every single word that we say is a spell, right? That's why they call it spelling. And, you know, this might be something that seems super mundane on the surface, right? Just like words that we say, like stories that we tell about ourselves and others. But this is something that is truly one of the most powerful, magical parts of life. And we maybe are being asked to take it a little bit more seriously, and to realize that we are creating our own reality with every thought, every word, and every deed. And so we can start to maybe monitor ourselves a little bit more closely, and see like where we are thinking out of alignment, where we are speaking out of alignment, and where we are taking action out of alignment, and come back to our soul's true north, right? That North Node Pisces. And so, you know, I've been saying a lot with the Neptune in Saturn in Aries moment back in January, end of January. We have the ability now to create our own reality and to start over, and to, maybe if we are starting over, there's a part of us that feels like, oh my gosh, I have to start over again, and like all that wasted time, and like all these regrets that I have about like the time that I wasted, and like, let's reframe all of that and give ourselves some encouragement around the ability to start over. It takes so much strength and it takes so much courage in the first place to even like leave behind what is not in alignment. That takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of guts, because a lot of people don't do that. They just stay in the comfortable numbness for forever, and they never, because they're too afraid to move into the unknown, right? And that's where we might be feeling. I think the Hangman is a really beautiful, representation of where we're at right now, because and where we have been probably for the whole duration of 2026 thus far, in this moment of waiting, this moment of like, it's super uncomfortable. Like, if you think about the Hangman, it's this man who's hanging by his legs and he's upside down and he's just like stuck there. And it's an energy of waiting, and it's an energy of, yes, it's super uncomfortable, but like the more I can lean into the idea of waiting, the more comfortable I'll become in this in-between time. And the more I'll be able to, when the new does come and the change does come, I'll be in a more relaxed state when it does come, more receptive state. And let's not forget that Pisces is a water sign, and water is feminine, and feminine is about rest, it's about receptivity, it's about attracting and not chasing, and it's about going inward, right? And having an experience that you might not share with the world. It might not share with anyone. Maybe sharing it with your journal, maybe sharing it with your tarot cards or your therapist. Like, Pisces is big on people starting therapy. If you're someone who's like trying to look at getting into recovery from any addictions or escapisms that we've had, like, now's a great time to start to go to therapy and to start to really like take an honest look at the things that are going on that you might not have been able to see for as clearly before, and now you're being given this like new sight about it. And Pisces is still about haziness. It's still about things being muddled and like kind of smoky, and like smoke and mirrors is very Pisces. And so we still could be struggling with this for the rest of the time where North Node is in Pisces until June. But I think this new moon is really hammering that home, especially at 28 degrees. It's really coming in strongly and giving us a new perspective and really giving us like a new spiritual identity. That's what I think the Pisces Aries energy together means. Pisces is that spiritual part, and Aries is our identity. And moving forward, we have to take what we've learned in the Pisces time and with all this huge amount of Pisces energy, like, we have to take that into the new and learn our lessons, and honor the lessons and honor what we've been through and honor the grieving process, like I've been saying for so many videos now. If we do have regrets, if we do have people that we need to forgive, like, we can truly start to do that, and we can truly start to have the courage to do that. Aries gives us that courage. It gives us that push, and it is giving us an opportunity to see where we really can't put it off anymore. Like, we really can't spiritually bypass it anymore. So one more thing about Pisces being smoke and mirrors. Like I said, there is a huge psyop at play right now in the world. And so there's people in power that want you to be disrupted, that want you to not be in a state of calm. They want you to stay in fight or flight. They want you to stay in survival mode because you're easier to control that way. And it's very understandable that we are all shooken up right now, right? Like very Uranus energy, very Uranus and Taurus energy. There's no denying that we all are upset by what's going on the world stage, but now that we've seen it, now that we can have this moment of like, maybe we've had our reactions and maybe we've, done whatever has happened to react because everybody's reaction has been different. And now we're finally maybe coming out of that reactionary stage, and now we're saying, okay, so in the wake of all of this, what is actually the best thing that we can do in order to move forward? And that is to find our own peace, to find our own calm in the storm, to find our own calm in the chaos, and to know that when we hold a vibration of peace and calm in the world, that vibration ripples out. That vibration is seemingly insignificant because it's like just us. But what would happen if every single one of us took our own individual responsibility to create a sense of peace within ourselves, a sense of calm, and everyone did that? The world would be calm. Like, when we are vibrating, when we can identify with what kind of vibration that we are on, like what emotion that we're feeling, which vibration we are on, we want to ask ourselves, like, is this the vibration that I want to be on going forward into this new world, going forward into the new earth that we are creating? Like, new earth begins inside of us. And if we are looking out to the world and saying, I need this to be different, then we have to first change within ourselves. And I know that sounds crazy. It sounds so like victim blamey. It's like, yeah, well, why don't you just create your own peace? Like in the midst of your country being bombed and in the midst of, whatever's happening. I think the way that people are being targeted right now is no accident. I think we first, for this Pisces North Node era, we have had the war in Gaza, which is the Holy Land, very Pisces. And now we have the war in Iran, which is primarily focused on women, and women, yes, there's so much more to this, but like women being forced to wear hijab and like not being allowed to dance, not being allowed to sing, not being allowed to speak, all these different things that like historically have been also like women in general have been oppressed in a way, in a similar way. Like women were not allowed to vote, their voices were taken. They were not allowed to wear certain things, and they were not allowed to, dance because that was seen as inappropriate. And like this is a historical thing that's like we're weeding it out of all these other cultures that still subscribe to these old ways, and we're finally coming into the future of like, what if we all had the freedom to speak our truth? What if we all had the freedom to wear whatever we wanted and what made us happy? What if we all had the freedom to dance and sing and express ourselves in the way that we, feel is best? And of course, we're seeing the flip side of that in the Americas, where in North America we are so free that people are allowed to just be racist and be bigots and be, like be man-haters even in some cases now at this point, where the pendulum has swung so far to the opposite side where it feels like there's like this wave of man-hating, understandably so, but like still this is not where we want to land, right? Like we don't want to land in a place of extreme duality. We want to land in a place where everyone and everything, everyone truly, like every being is cared for, and they all have a quality of life that is sustainable and high, even, you know, like we all deserve a high quality of life, and we all deserve to have our dreams come true, you know, like as crazy idealistic as that sounds, like we really truly all do deserve to have our dreams come true. And so, like, let's create a world where everybody's dreams can come true. And speaking of dreams, the ruling planet of this lunation is, it depends on who you ask, and so I'm going to do a delineation on both. Neptune is the more modern ruler because Neptune was discovered later. And in traditional astrology, which is where I was trained, is Jupiter. And so Jupiter has just freshly gone direct on the 9th of March. And now it's been in Cancer since last June, and now it's in forward motion. And so technically Mars and Mercury are both making a trine to Jupiter because Jupiter is at 15 degrees of Cancer direct at this point. So not super close, like 5-6 degrees away from Mars and Mercury in Pisces, making that trine. So a trine to Jupiter from Mars and Mercury is like a supportive aspect, first of all. Second of all, Jupiter is in its favorite place when it's in Cancer. It's in its exaltation, and it is super happy to provide, right? Cancer is the provider, it's the nourishment. It's wanting to feed people. It's wanting to make sure everybody feels like they're at home. Everyone feels comfy. Everybody feels safe. Everybody feels connected. Everybody feels at peace and truly safe, right? Like safety is huge for Cancer. And in the Pisces realm, like I said, we don't have that sense of protection. And Jupiter itself is a protective quality. Because if you think about Jupiter being the biggest planet out there in our solar system, Jupiter often will block any asteroids from hitting the Earth because it just is like taking the hit for us. So Jupiter inherently has that protective quality. And Cancer is the sign of the crab. So the crab has its exoskeleton, it has its shell, it has its protection always there. And it is, you know, can be a little fearful, can be super sensitive, so maybe our sensitivity is turned up to 10 with that trine, but because it's a supportive trine, I think it's going to support us in learning how to like truly protect what's sacred, I think, because Cancer is like also this essence of the mother and the baby, right? Like we look at these communities we look at any community as, you know, a part of, there's men, there's women, and then there's children. And then when things start to hit the fan and we start to have it to like take maneuvers in order to protect, we move the women and children first into a more protective zone where the men then are asked to step up or to like step back and let the women and children go first because they're more vulnerable and they're more, you know, like they're just more vulnerable if you just want to keep it at that. And so there's a sense of protecting what's vulnerable about ourselves and about what's vulnerable about these groups of people and these issues and these women for sure with Cancer, like mothers and women and children. And so there's that trine, and then there's also Jupiter in Cancer is making a square to Venus, and Venus is in Mars, like I had mentioned. It's at 15 degrees, so that's an exact square, and that I think is maybe if Venus is feeling a little like rambunctious or like, you know, she could be feeling super horny because she's in the sign of the ram with the horns. and there's a lot of Aries energy that's there already and building. We could be feeling like impulsive, and we could be feeling reckless, and we could be feeling like angry. And I think that square from Jupiter is like, you cannot be acting all crazy. You are gonna be hitting a block, right? Like a square is also like a block, and or a challenge, really, if you want to leave it at that. And it's like we're being challenged to refine the Venus and Aries energy, and to protect ourselves and protect our self-worth and value, and protect our hearts with Venus. Protect our body. Venus rules the body. It rules feminine qualities as well. So like protecting our womb space if you have a womb, instead of like just being reckless. And it can be really tempting right now to just kind of like fly off the handle, and like maybe we've been feeling so apathetic and feeling so discontent, or like, you know, we've been escaping already enough with the Pisces energy, and now we move into this like more toxic way of escaping through like sexual stuff. And it's like, no, we can't do that. We can't make it worse than it already is. So like, you know, and this is not to shame anybody or anything like that. I'm trying to be real with about what could be manifesting for us right now. So that is with the Jupiter delineation as the ruling planet. We look to Jupiter. I personally feel that Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and it's not like one is right or wrong. That's just me and how I feel about it, because Pisces is the higher octave. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, meaning Venus is more about like mundane relationships, and our relationships that we have in like work, and our friendships, and our romantic relationships, yes. But then we have Neptune, which is like our God love, like God level love, our unconditional love, this love that transcends all the conditions that we have that are real in the 3D world. And we move to that 5D point of existence, and we see that there is a love that exists that is so much bigger and transcends all of that. And it's so beautiful, and it's so like, it really is truly formless and nameless, and clearly very emotional. And you know, maybe it's so emotional because we just wish that we could be more like that, right? Or like we could have relationships that are like that. And maybe there's been a lot of pain where there has been moments of realization, you know, Taurus, Uranus and Taurus, like realizations about relationships that like, oh, well, this wasn't, you know, like maybe like a fall from the pedestal. Like this wasn't as great as I thought it was, and now it's fallen. And there's a real grieving that comes with that. And there's a real, like, there's no denying that it's not what you thought it was, and that like the illusion is gone. And so that could be very emotional, and we could be feeling like the valve is open for us to truly process that emotion, and to truly like let it flow through us, and to let it move through us so that it can be released, right? Because ultimately Pisces is about releasing and getting to a point where we're actually ready to start over, right? And that's where we're at with this new moon in Pisces. So yeah, the Neptune is at 1 degree of Aries, right? And it's at this beginning point as well. Like the new moon in Pisces is a beginning point, and that 1st degree of Aries is the freaking 1st degree of the whole zodiac. Like, it's beginning a new journey, and we have a new spiritual identity, and we can take comfort in that, and we can hold on to that as we move forward, because even if all of this other Pisces stuff isn't real, you know, it exists out there, and it exists in this other space that like we have to travel to and we have to like tune into, and it's far away, you know, it feels separated from us for good reason. But now we have this new spiritual identity after we've communed with that, like I said, and now we can move forward with that new spiritual identity and hold on to that in the 3D. So, yeah, Neptune is going to be in Aries until 2039, you guys. Yeah, 2039. It's fine. We've got a long time for the spiritual warrior to develop, for the spiritual identity to develop, and for, you know, if you're someone who's just starting to wake up, if you're someone who's just starting to find yourself delving into spiritual modalities and concepts or whatever, like, you know that you have time and that it's okay to move at your own pace. So, yeah, there's that. I want to say, too, that on March the 26th, so less than a week after, or sorry, that's like 8 days. So one week, about 1 week after this new moon, we're going to have Venus in Aries conjunct Chiron in Aries. And that's going to be at 25 degrees, I believe. Venus conjunct Chiron could also be like realizing where our relationships have triggered wounds that we've had from the beginning of our lifetime, wounds that never were our fault to begin with, that we like came into this life and they were just handed to us. For instance, if I've been using this example of how men, when they are born, they are taken straight to the knife and they are cut, and that is a wound that all of them have to deal with, and they were never asked, it was never their fault, like that they were a boy or that the medical industry is the way that it is or any of that, like, or that their parents were culturally conditioned to make that choice or any of that. Like, maybe there was never any ill intent of that harm, but it was nevertheless harm, and now something that has to be dealt with and is very much a real thing. Like, there's nothing about that is normal or that should be normalized or that should be taken lightly or like swept under the rug or like not even considered to be trauma, or, you know, like a lot of the way that society and culture kind of treats that situation. And that's one of those things, right? Like, a lot of people have their own opinion about it, but the truth of the matter is that, yeah, that's trauma, and it's real, and it's abuse, right? Like, it's violent abuse. And so, anyways, like, when we talk about truth, it's very easy to get muddled and easy to kind of get lost, but like, I want to bring up the concept of objective truth, and I want, if you are someone who's watching this, to drop a comment below and tell me your honest, true opinion about the concept of objective truth, because I think that everyone is experiencing the world in their own way, and everyone does have their own experiential truth, but then there is also an objective truth, like things such as like gravity. Gravity doesn't ask for you to believe in it or not. Gravity is going to take you down off the cliff, whether or not you believe in gravity or not, whether or not your truth is that gravity is going to take me down. Like, it's going to take you down because it's true. And so there's maybe a confrontation with Mercury and Pisces, right? Like, can we ignore the objective truth around a certain situation or not? And so without getting into too much like mind game stuff about that, because it's really, we're really working with like difficult, it's just hard to pin anything down when we're talking about these concepts, right? Because that's Pisces, right? It's like formless, nameless, all this stuff. It's very difficult to nail it down. And maybe that's the whole point, right? We can't put logic to it. We can't make it make sense. We can't like mansplain it to everybody so that we're all on the same page. Like that's kind of the whole thing, is like we have to just accept. And that's why my last video was, it is what it is, right? Because like maybe we've done all the work that we could have done, and now we still aren't getting the results that we wanted, or we're still not getting the closure that we wanted, or we're still not getting what the ego wanted, right, out of the situation. And now we're having to just like truly accept, and that is a long process, and that is why I've spoken about that so many different times in so many different ways at this point, feeling like a broken record. So yeah, Venus and Chiron, Venus meeting up with Chiron is like, where have the wounds that we gathered, and not gathered, you know, like we were appointed these wounds in our childhood from whatever happened that wasn't our fault, but yet it still happened, and yet we still have to deal with it. How are they now affecting our relationships as adults and as, you know, grown people? Relationships, romantic or otherwise, right? Like we said, the mundane relationships. And that can be our relationship to money as well. So it's not limited to emotional trauma, although Venus does work with the emotions. It can also be very money oriented and money related. So, you know, Aries season begins 2 days after this. We have the new year, astrological new year. We have Mercury going direct. We have, you know, we're moving into April soon, where we're going to have this huge amount of Aries energy, and I'm super excited to talk about it because Aries is really cool, and it gets a bad rap, and, you know, it's kind of like the sister sign in a way to Scorpio, which is my sun sign. And I get it, like Aries and Scorpio, we get a bad rap because it's ruled by Mars, and Mars is misunderstood as the masculine also is, right? And I'm not going to get into it right now, but like we are being asked with Pisces to have compassion for even our enemies, and even the people that have hurt us, and even, you know, and that doesn't mean excusing their behavior or giving them like the go ahead and go and collect $200. Like, it's about releasing it for our own sake and for our nervous system's sake, so that we can truly move forward. And maybe we're able to truly hear like how much we're still holding on to, even if we think we've done the work, we've done the journaling, we've done the workshops, we've done the therapy. What's going on up here that is still holding on to it and still like just clinging to that victim mentality, right? And that's really what it is. And therefore we're becoming a martyr in the name of this wounding, in the name of this pain, in the name of this like, yeah, this like mission, which is a mission, you know, like we are on a mission, but we don't have to kill ourselves in the process. We literally are no good to anyone when we ourselves are depleted and feeling like we're at war with ourselves, at war with others, at war with everyone. You know, like we're not doing anyone any favors by staying in a place of survival, staying in a place of, yeah, victimhood. And so there's a lot that just got said. I want to really just encourage everyone to do their spiritual work, like, and that could be as simple as take a nap. Like, give yourself permission to rest. Give yourself permission to lean into the feminine. Because, you know, we're seeing the rise of the divine feminine. And she is rising in fire. Like, she's rising from the ashes. And Black Moon Lilith is in Sagittarius. We have Venus in Aries. And we have Neptune in Aries. Like, these are the most feminine. And of course, you know, we have the moon, which is another feminine body. But, like, the moon moves so fast, it's hard to pin her down. But with these three other bodies, like, those are feminine planets, and they are in masculine signs, and they are in fire signs. And so if there, you know, there is a feeling of it needing to get spicy, like, we've been too nice for too long type energy too. Yes, we should still cultivate that compassion. I think that's the most important and most needed medicine on the planet. But also, like, we have played Mr. Nice Guy for way too long, and that's where that protection aspect is coming in. Because if we don't protect the sacred, no one will, clearly. We have seen what it looks like to give ourselves away and to put our lives in the hands of other people that have squandered it and that have, you know, hurt us even more and just completely betrayed us on every level. And I'm speaking, like, collectively about, like, outsourcing to the government and to, like, these men in power, right? Like, and I know it's not all men, but it's a very predominantly men community, right? Like, politicians, and it's a very masculine energy, whether or not you are a man or a woman. And so, not saying that it's bad, and not saying that we don't need that. We actually just need people who are willing to protect the sacred in those fields, right? Like, and we just are seeing the opposite, the complete opposite. And so, what are we going to do about it? All we can do, right? And that's take our power back, and that is take responsibility for our own well-being and our own nervous system and our own spiritual practices and our own raising of our frequency, because the more we all take that individual responsibility to raise our frequency, the more that we all will be able to meet there, right? And meet there in that compassionate, loving, nourished, safe energy that we really do want. And, you know, thank God we have Jupiter in Cancer until July. But I'm telling you guys, once July comes around and we see, June is when Jupiter moves into Leo. July is when the North Node moves into Aquarius, which means the South Node is Leo. Jupiter's moving into Leo in June, South Node into Leo in July. And that's going to be like a whole takedown moment of, like, corrupt leaders and about people who are power hungry, people who are, like, just performing for likes, who are just, like, begging for validation, who will do whatever and change themselves and overperform and do all the things to get people to like them, even though it's, like, empty and gross and just kind of, like, cringe. And not that cringe is bad inherently, but, like, when people do that, it's just like, yeah, we can see that you're just, like, begging for attention, and we see that you're just begging for, like, yeah, likes. And once again, we all want to be liked. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. But Leo operates best when it's moving from a place of, I would be doing this anyway. Like, I just do this because I love it. I do this because it brings me joy. I do this because it brings out my inner child. I do this because this is how I shine my light. I don't care who's looking or not. I'm going to be shining over here. You can come or not. And it becomes more magnetic, right? And so I'm getting off into a whole tangent, but I just want to talk about the fire aspect and how it can be very conflicting right now because we're cultivating compassion and we're forgiving everyone, but we're also like taking up arms and we're protecting the sacred, and we are speaking out when before we may have just been quiet, and we're advocating for ourselves before we just like let people walk all over us. And so we can hold both, and we can be both, and we can also acknowledge that the confusion and that the conflicting energies exist, and they are there. They are literally right there next to each other. Pisces, Aries, like the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega, right? Like, what does it even mean? It encapsulates everything, and everything is a lot to hold. So don't forget to check in with your boundaries and know that it's okay to have boundaries. Know that it's okay to do your self-care and to take time and space away if you need to recharge. Trying your best not to feel guilty for doing what you need to do to restabilize, to come back into your center, to do your self-care, you know, whatever it looks like for you right now. It's like, please don't should yourself into thinking that you should be doing more for this cause, or you should be this or that. Like, you are perfect right where you are, and you cannot pour from an empty cup, because boom, right there, that's the whole message, right? All right, so let's go into our rune. Finally done with this big ol' candle that I've had since like 3 moons ago, which was the Mercury energy, and that's so perfect, right? Because we're finally going to be having Mercury come out of retrograde for this new one. 2 days after the new moon, but still, we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Mercury in Pisces is ready to move the fuck on, that's for sure. All right, so let's do a rune. Which rune does this collective need for this YouTube reading for the Pisces new moon? Okay. So, this is just a little like less than sign. Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is Quanon, which means, are you ready? Torch, fire, malady, which I don't know if I said that right, death, mortality, pain, or ulcer. So, in our last video, we talked about Virgo being very much related to the body. It's the mind-body connection, and about how there could be symptoms, like physical body symptoms, that are coming up around that time of the full moon, and we could be having to reckon with whatever symptoms are plaguing us, and we're having to adjust accordingly, of course, in order to rectify. And so hopefully this fire energy doesn't also continue to inflame these symptoms, these real symptoms that we could be experiencing, that astrology always points to, even if you aren't aware of it. And, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and there is a death and a dying of perhaps the ego, of perhaps, whatever is no longer serving us, and whatever has run its course, and whatever is just straight up not coming with us into the next chapter. So, yeah, like for me, at the last full moon eclipse, because it was on my moon sign, and it was also, I also have Virgo Chiron, and or Chiron and Virgo, and so I did a fire ceremony where I had the first fire of the year even though it was in between rainstorms, like I had just enough time to do a fire in between rainstorms. And at first I was like, oh, it's so wet, I don't know if I can even get this fire to go, but it was just enough fire in order for me to burn what I needed to burn. And so maybe that is something that would feel good for you if you have like anything that you need to burn away. Like for me, it was like old letters from past lovers and photos that I just was like, why am I holding on to this? Like, this is not healthy for me. And so I just was like, we're gonna burn it. And maybe that was impulsive, but maybe it was also like me finally telling myself like, oh, that would be so mean to do. Like, no, it's not mean to let go of what is not in alignment with me anymore and is not coming with me into the next chapter. Like, that's not mean. That's just like natural, you know? That is like accepting what is the next chapter, right? Like accepting that change is here and that change is permanent, right? Like, I'm not here to say that I will never see those people again, or I don't have, you know, feelings about like the memories that we had or any of that stuff. Like, I still am trying my best to think fondly of these people, and even though they're not with me anymore and they've hurt me and there's whatever stories about them, I just want to purify that, all of it with the fire, and for it to be like any anger burned away, any resentment burned away, any like what ifs burned away, like any like attachments that I have to like maybe one day we'll get back together, or like what, you know, like all of that needed to just be put to rest and to be burned away, because I cannot afford to bring that weight into the new chapter. So that is period. So use that fire in a way that is like purifying, transforming, inspiring. I think inspiring is more like an air sign thing, but you know, like fire is so like, you know, you just look at a candle flame or you look at the fire in the campfire and it's like there's just something that connects you with that, like with that other realm, really, you know, because like fire is very mystical, it's very transformational, it's very like a spiritual thing that you know, we could talk about fire all day long, but I'm definitely going to talk about fire a lot in the next video, so let's save it for that. But yeah, using fire in a way that is healthy, that helps us to process what we're processing, and not in a way that exacerbates our pain and makes it worse and inflames us, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. All right, let's draw a card. Of course, we had to use the Oceanic Tarot because Pisces. I actually was like, do I use the Kuan Yin Oracle? Because Kuan Yin's about compassion and Jupiter and Cancer. What I did do and what I did want to say is that I have this altar card here. I changed my altar since last time we had our video. And this altar card is really special. It's Kuan Yin at the top, the goddess of compassion, and it's Pele, Tutu Pele. She is the volcano goddess. And so, whew, this is pretty much the energy that we're dealing with here, guys. This is that energy of compassion and forgiveness and soft feminine. And then there's the fire goddess who literally births new worlds from the destruction, right? Like when she erupts, the volcano erupts and lava starts to pour out from her womb. The lava makes its way to the ocean floor in its own journey. And it then comes back as a new island, right? Like all the lava that has been poured out from Kilauea is the volcano's name, has been creating a new island in the Hawaiian Islands. And so, yeah, I chose, at first I had Pele at the top because I was like in that fire ceremony mode, and I was like, we're burning it down, we're creating the new, we're letting the fire purify us. But today I decided before this video that I would turn Kuan Yin up because, you know, forgiveness is the heavyweight champion of spiritual work. It is not easy. It is not to be taken lightly, and it is not to be glossed over as like, oh yeah, well, I forgive them. Like, no, like, really, did you forgive them on a cellular level to where you now are no longer plagued by that pain? And do we ever get to a point of that type of healing, right? Like, is that another part of why it's so emotional with Pisces? It's like, can we ever be free truly from the pain and from the memories and from whatever has hurt us and from like the damage that has been done on the world stage and in our own lives? And anyways, it's compassion is heavyweight champion and truly the like healing balm on our hearts that have been burned and scorched and yeah, all of that. So Kuan Yin, if you don't know her, there's your introduction. All right, so let's draw a card. Okay, so we already had, yeah, we have the sun, which is about happiness. And the sun, as we know in astrology, rules over Leo. And Leo is the only sign in the zodiac that is ruled by the sun. And like I said, we're going to have Leo, Jupiter in Leo in June, South Node Leo. Let us remember what makes us happy and what brings us back to our center and what allows us to shine our light unapologetically, but also not in an overpowering way. You know, like if the sun got any closer to the earth, we would all be burnt to a crisp. Like, so like the sun has to have a certain, it has to have certain circumstances in order for it to shine and not hurt anyone, right? In order for it to shine and not only not hurt anyone, but to start to give life to this planet, right? Like the sun is where we get life, and the sun is returning now, right? Like in springtime, Aries season is the first day of spring. The sun is returning. You know, we're also going to be having Easter soon, and that's a whole thing. It's about the Son of God returning from the dead, and that is its own metaphor and its own perfect story that fits in with this, right? Like that's why Easter is so close to Aries season, and right? Like, anyways, let's read it, and let's make sure and get anything that I've missed here. So the sun is the 19th card. Keywords: growth, children, joy, protection, holidays, success, contentment. I was thinking that earlier about how the sun and Jupiter are very closely related, because Jupiter is like Big Daddy. You know, it's the biggest planet in the solar system, and it's associated with Zeus in Roman mythology or Greek mythology. I get them confused. Zeus was like the leader and the god and king of Mount Olympus. And the sun is the center of the universe, or the solar system. And it is very much associated with like God and with ideals and with wisdom and like, you know, with life-giving. And so it's very similar to Jupiter. And yeah, that protection, holidays even, like, if you are someone who is tired of the old holidays, like traditional holidays, and you become completely burnt out, maybe adopting a new way of celebrating the Wheel of the Year in another way, like maybe following the astrological events, like celebrating new moons and full moons, or maybe it's like journeying into more pagan roots, like if you have a lineage that your ancestry is like, maybe they weren't like pagans per se, but like maybe if you have some ancestry that you know about and like the lands that they're from, looking into their old traditions and going along with what feels right for you, of course, like, but so yeah, that could be something that we're changing too, like changing the way that we practice spirituality in a day-to-day world. Like we're done celebrating the traditional holidays. Now we're moving into this new way of being. So it says, 2 mer children, a boy and a girl, play together in an underwater garden as sunlight illuminates their beautiful world. To reach toward the sun as if acknowledging its healing light and power to regenerate. No predators threaten the children's peace. The ocean fish around them swim without fear, comfortable and protected in their idyllic surroundings. Yeah, it's like so crazy how like we've been in this winter energy for so long, and then the sun comes out for one day and all of a sudden it's like life is worth living again. Like everything's fine. Like I'm fine. I actually wasn't that close to death. I was like just needing the sun. It says this is a joyful, positive card that predicts happiness and time for well-deserved relaxation. If life has been stressful lately, the sun is a welcoming sign that the pressure will end and you'll finally be able to unwind. You may be spending time with children or finding your inner child, doing whatever pleases you and brings you fulfillment. The sun also predicts holidays and trips, and you find peace and contentment in a place that nurtures and inspires you. The sun favors creative pursuits too, so you may turn your attention to hobbies and creative projects that now will flourish. The advice is to appreciate your deserved success at this special time of rest and recuperation. Enjoy feeling safe and appreciate the harmony that is around you. All I'm saying is, I'm recording this on the 9th of March. We have the rest of the month, really maybe not the whole month, right? Until we have Aries season begin on the 20th. And then it's go time. Let's take our rest while we can. Let's be grateful for where we are. Let's take, like I said with the last video, take harvest of the work that we have done and know that we have literally done all that we can do. And now, if we are not in a state of peace, that's our work. And maybe that, really just simply looks like taking a nap if you need a nap. If your sleep has been disrupted, you are right on time, Like it really might be disrupted during this new moon because of that sextile to Uranus, but I'm gonna keep hoping that that is a positive thing, something that is liberating us from what has been keeping us in a psychotic state or keeping us wanting to escape, keeping us wanting to, kind of literally just like check out altogether because it's too much. Like we're overwhelmed, we're overstimulated, we're over this or over that. It's totally valid. Like if no one has validated you in this whole thing, like it's completely valid for you to just want to fucking check out. Like, but we can't. We can take our time and we can do our practices and we can take our self-care, but we cannot fully check out. And that's where the balance is fine. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I know I said this was going to be a shorter video, and of course it was not, but that's fine. That's just how I roll. I could talk and talk and talk and talk. Let me know in the comments below if you would like a reading, and we can check out where you have Pisces and Aries in your chart, and we can check out where you have Cancer in your chart and see where Jupiter's hanging out. And yeah, let's talk about astrology, and let's do what we all need to do individually to come back into alignment, come back to our center, and come back into hope that the world is changing for the better, and that all these shakeups are actually taking us closer and closer into New Earth.